There is something going on in the leftward land of silliness. Normally, leftists do not root for Israel. They root for the Palestinians because, like all Marxists, they break everybody down into two groups, the oppressor and the oppressed. And they always side with their version of the oppressed because who doesn't want to support a victim, right? The leftists usually blame Israel for every problem that an Arab has. And according to the Arabs, absolutely nothing that happens to them is their fault. But something is going on right now in the aftermath of the Hamas attack on innocent Jewish people in the news media and in politics. Let's get into it. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Now, we have people who would normally kiss the asses of the Palestinians over Israelis, like New Jersey Senator Cory Booker, who gave this wild interview talking about Israel in a positive light and about Hamas in the horrific light that they deserve. It makes you wonder, what the hell is going on? Let's give it a watch.
Hamas, terrorists, ISIS-like, Hitler-like folks who hate Jews and want to kill them. It's because we cannot let these terrorists, this ISIS-like, Nazi-like people win. And that's why the debate in America should not be a debate. We should have a crystal clarity to support Israel and to call out these Nazi ISIS-like folks who are targeting civilians with an attempt not just to kill and murder Jews, not just to kill and use Palestinians as human shields. To me, there should be no confusion about this for Americans. And I'll say this not just as a United States Senator, not just as a patriot who would die for my own country, but I'm going to say this as a black man. When you're black in America, you understand the vulnerability within your own country you love. I saw it as an adult on January 6th.
Wow, here we go.
Just like the Nazis, who didn't just destroy 6 million Jews, they destroyed gay people, gypsies. I will stand with people who are targets of hate. Hamas, like the Nazis and like ISIS, are people who target with hate. I stand with Jews. I stand with Muslims. I stand with gay folks. I stand with people right now who all have a common cause.
All right, so how about that, guys? Like, other than the obligatory lies about January 6th, claiming that they used Hamas-style tactics, what the hell is he thinking? Well, Booker sounded like a conservative there. Again, what the hell is going on? I think that what's going on, I have a couple theories. The first one is that I think that the coverage of what happened and the videos that came out that Hamas posted on social media of the murders, the slaughters, I think that twisted the leftist brain into saying, you know what, even though we hate Israel and we love the Palestinians, we have to look at them as the oppressed, the Israelis, because how are we going to argue against this? Now, all but your extra chromosome Marxists are doing this. Now, initially, Booker, if you didn't know this, he was in Israel when the attack happened. And he used his influence as a U.S. senator to get the hell out of there toot sweet. But there was a Republican congressman, Cory Mills of Florida, who was in the United States, and he heard what happened in Israel, and he immediately went to Israel, and he got 25 Americans out. There's the difference. So then why is Booker doing an interview giving straight talk about the evils of Hamas and how Israel was the victim? We don't expect that from Democrats, especially from Cory Booker. Next, we have Jake Tapper of CNN, who spent 19 whole seconds pointing out something that he never would have said before of what Hamas did last week. Give it a listen.
These last few days have been a real eye-opening period for a lot of people, a lot of Democrats, a lot of progressives, in terms of anti-Semitism on the left. A lot of people who seem more shocked at dehumanizing language used by world leaders to describe Hamas than what Hamas actually perpetrated on Saturday.
Wow. Okay, let me repeat that. He said, these last few days have been a real eye-opening period for a lot of people, a lot of Democrats, a lot of progressives in terms of anti-Semitism on the left. A lot of people who seemed more shocked at dehumanizing language used by world leaders to describe Hamas than what Hamas actually perpetrated on Saturday. Whoa. I think Tapper is sincere there, too. Jake Tapper was a very good reporter before he got to CNN. CNN corrupted the hell out of him. I didn't like his reporting before because he was always supporting liberals, but at least he was a good reporter. But this was like the old Jake Tapper. Now, this makes you wonder if leftists and media and politicians are starting to acknowledge that there are people in their own ideology who side with vicious, brutal terrorist animals like Hamas over Israel. What's that going to do to the woke supremacy of the leftist Borg? You see, the Marxist model for power is always self-defeating every single time. Now, what do I mean by that? Okay, how do you get Muslims to team up with LGBTQ people? It's because neither the Muslims nor the LGBTQ people had any power that they wanted. The Marxist model is we have one enemy that we unite over, and we can forget everything else that we divide ourselves from while we work our way up the ladder to gain power. And the same thing happened to the misinformation fake news media in 2016. They all had one thing they hated, and it was Donald Trump. But the interesting thing about the Marxist model is that when any one of those groups that team up as unlikely bedfellows gets the political power that they sought, you start to see the fracturing of that alignment between the groups. Because they say to each other, well, I don't need you anymore. I don't agree with anything you do. I only agreed with hating this person. So I'm wondering if we're going to see that in the mainstream media. Because the next guy I'm going to show you got suspended from MSNBC for saying stupid shit on the air. But you would normally think that MSNBC is the Looney Tunes leftist network where everybody's trying to get to the top of that crazy person totem pole so that they were able to say anything they wanted for years. Okay, so watch this video of Velshi on MSNBC and know that this guy got suspended for what he said. Maybe for other things. We'll get into it. And so you know that something is going on there. Ready?
One thing clear, Israel has a right to exist and to defend itself. That is an indisputable fact.
All right, so he starts off with Israel has a right to defend itself. And then he goes on and says that is an indisputable fact. But see, that's the disclaimer that fake news leftists do so that they can say anything they want to the right of that decimal point. Because at the end, when you point out that he said some pretty horrific things on the air, they say like, well, in the beginning, I said that Israel had a right to defend itself, didn't I? Here, let's watch the rest.
But so do Palestinians. And that's a fact that's often ignored.
It's not ignored, but go ahead.
Palestinians are, at best, third-class citizens in the nation of their birth. The idea that it's even remotely controversial to call what Israel has imposed on Palestinians a form of apartheid is laughable.
It's not a form of apartheid when Israel has to defend themselves against the government that the people in Gaza elected, Hamas, a terrorist group.
Look at a current map of Israel, Gaza, and the occupied territories conjures up only one other example. Apartheid-era South Africa.
Nonsense. It is not an apartheid at all. Israel, inside Israel, you have Arabs, you have Palestinians who live in there, who enjoy life inside Israel. They live better lives inside Israel than they would in any other Arab nation. If you want to talk about an apartheid nation, look at anybody in the Arab world, any other country there.
The Israeli government, on an ongoing basis, declares parcels of land on which Palestinians live to be either of military or archaeological importance, causing residents to be evicted. Sometimes there's a court case, and almost always the Palestinians lose. Yet months or weeks later, that same important land suddenly becomes home to a brand new Israeli settlement.
Why would they want to fight for people who want to kill them 24/7? He's not going to ask that question.
More and more Jewish settlers take over land on which Arabs live. The occupied West Bank becomes de facto more Israeli, and in the explicit hopes of the Israeli government, more Jewish.
So he's complaining that the Israeli government wants their land to be more Jewish.
This is a long-standing attempt and a deliberate attempt to force Arabs who have lived in that land, sometimes for hundreds of years, out.
Yeah, but the Israelis were there, the Jews were there first. I mean, that's just a proven fact of history. So from what I understand, he got in trouble for that. Okay? I mean, think about what's going on. An MSNBC guy got in trouble for busting Israel's balls. What in the hell is going on? Then we have the Washington Post's Karen Attiah, who wrote on Friday an opinion piece headline, "We cannot stand by and watch Israel commit atrocities." Christ. She starts the opinion piece out saying, "We are witnessing the worst of humanity in all ways." A friend of mine texted me this week. Last Saturday, the Palestinian militant group Hamas, notice how she called them a Palestinian militant group. Doesn't that get to you? She didn't call them the Palestinian terrorist group Hamas. She called them a militant group because the word militant sounds a lot less disgusting than savaged terrorist animals. So last Saturday, the Palestinian militant group launched an unprecedented attack on Israel, killing more than 1,300 people, including 247 soldiers. Israel vowed to retaliate, cut off water and electricity to Gaza, and began bombardment of the Strip. The Gaza Health Ministry said Friday that the death toll in Gaza from Israel's military action stood at roughly 1,800 people, including more than 580 children and more than 350 women. Now, notice that she only spoke of Palestinian children. She didn't mention the Israeli children who were murdered or the babies who were beheaded. Babies. What kind of a threat were they to Hamas? Or how about the young women who were dragged by their hair through the streets, raped and brutally murdered, or kidnapped, taken back to Gaza, where they were probably raped again and brutally murdered there? All right. So you can tell by this piece that she is one of the uber leftists, one of the true Marxists that didn't heed the warning that came from either the DNC, the Biden White House, or wherever. Now, here's a really interesting one. MSNBC suspends Muslim anchors amid Israeli war in Gaza. They suspended Velshi, as they should have suspended him, because he didn't go with the orders to not trash Israel on this one. I'm telling you, there's something going on. But he spouted off bullshit instead. And they suspended Mehdi Hassan because he's Mehdi Hassan and he would probably say something stupid that would embarrass the network because he does that every night that he's on the air. But then the third guy, Ayman Moheldin, I don't know what the hell he said that got himself suspended. I can't find anything bad he said on the air, but I did see this, and I saw nothing wrong with it. Give it a watch.
Breaking news information that we are getting from the State Department. It gives you a sense of just how dynamic and tragic this situation continues to be. We now have confirmation from the U.S. State Department that the number of American citizens that have been killed as a result of this war is now 29. 29 U.S. citizens have been killed. That number has now gone up. There are 15 U.S. citizens that are still unaccounted for. So it gives you a sense of just how this unfolding tragedy continues, as Huma was saying earlier, to impact countries all around the world, the region, and certainly here in the U.S. So it's a situation that we'll continue to follow. We'll have more information for you as we learn it.
Now, am I right that there's nothing wrong with what he just said, and he comes off like a professional newsman? I would watch him do the news. I'm thinking what's going on in MSNBC is word went out either from the Democratic Party as a whole, the DNC, or the Biden White House, that they have to take the side of Israel on this. Seriously, I think Hamas went so far into the darkness, acting like fucking animals, and then posting their slaughtering on social media for the whole world to see, that the Democrats realized that there was no way that they could fake it in favor of the Palestinians with their bloviating, because if you support Palestinians who jump up and down cheering the actions of Hamas, it's pretty clear you're supporting Hamas as well. You don't support people who support terrorist animals like Hamas. And I think Jake Tapper pointed it out, that they're all finding out the reality of each one of them in the misinformation fake news media, where they stand in the world of victimhood and retaliation for being slaughtered by a bunch of terrorists. All right, make sure you subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. Share our videos with like-minded friends. Stay informed, stay vigilant. Always remember to read between the lines and the lies. Thanks for watching this video. I'll see you in the next one.